2 o'clock. If you would all stand, please, and we'll pledge allegiance to the flag of America. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for being here. In the spirit of the season, on behalf of all of the board members, we wish you a very happy Christmas and holiday season. Hope that the new year brings everybody peace, joy, and the things that you hold most dear in your hearts. Lisa, would you please read the opening statement and call the roll?
This is to advise the general public and to instruct that it be recorded in the minutes that in compliance with the Zoning Environment and Air Open Public Meetings Act, the Casino Reinvestment Development Authority set its annual meeting schedule for August 2017 through July 2018, setting forth the time, date, and location of this meeting to the Secretary of State's office in Trenton, New Jersey, and the office of the Clerk of Atlantic City. The notice was published in the Press of Atlantic City, the Camden Courier Post, and the New York Star Ledger on August 1, 2017 and August 2, 2017. Members of the press will be permitted to take photographs at today's meeting, providing that it is done in a manner which is not distracting to the authority, nor interferes with the public's right to observe the meeting. Any member of the public who wishes to address the authority regarding items to be presented to the board today will be given the opportunity to do so. Comments regarding any issues that do not appear on today's agenda will be taken during the public comment portion at the end of the meeting. We ask that members of the public who address the board stand and state their name and address for the record each time they speak on an issue. It is also requested that comments be limited to 3 minutes per issue. Deborah DiLorenzo.
Present.
Ed Gant.
Here.
Margie Antonio.
Here.
Mayor Don Guardian.
Here.
Michael Hanley.
Here.
Gary Hill.
Here.
Howard Kyle.
Here.
Matt Levinson. William Mullen.
Here.
Kevin Ortzman.
Here.
Dave Rebuck for the State Attorney General.
Here.
Barbara Kennedy for the DCA Commissioner.
Here.
Bob Shaughnessy for the State Treasurer.
Here.
Frank Spencer. Richard Tolson.
Here.
Chairman Robert Mulcahy.
Here. The first item on the agenda today is the ratification of the minutes of the November 21st meeting of the board. They've been sent to you. You've read them. Are there any additions or corrections? Hearing and seeing none, I'll accept the motion to approve them as submitted.
Motion. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so ordered. A little change in the order before we go to the Executive Director's report. As we come to the end of the year, I thought it was perfectly appropriate that we give you a brief rundown on some of the major accomplishments for 2017 for this board. And I think there are many, and I think that it's important that the public understand the kinds of things that we do. So I'm going to run through them kind of quickly. First item is we eliminated an operating deficit of $2.24 million from our 2017 budget for CRDA operations, which included our SID subsidy. Secondly, we completed a staff reorganization resulting in over $600,000 in annual savings to the authority. Third, we completed and approved an amendment to the Tourism District Master Plan, which incorporated significant feedback from the community and from our stakeholders. Fourth, we completed and improved new land use regulations for the tourism district, replacing the existing Atlantic City ordinances that have been in place since 1978. Fifth, we completed an overhaul of our significantly outdated IT infrastructure and financial accounting platform. When we inherited the ACCBA, the financial systems were different. They were all outdated, and if you've been here at meetings before, you know that we approved the money, and we're in the process of getting it all on one system and modernized. We approved the new mission statement for the authority to reflect legislative changes. We signed an agreement with WME and IMG and Comcast NBC Universal to bring destination events to Atlantic City. And you'll see some announcements coming forth very quickly about what's going to happen. We held 3 beach concerts, drawing over 70,000 people to Atlantic City. We continued our efforts to maintain and improve historic Boardwalk Hall, the Atlantic City Convention Center, including our recent approval of the first major renovation of the Boardwalk Hall lobby in 33 years. We created an entertainment retail district for the Hard Rock Casino and Hotel that will generate up to $2.5 million a year for the authority. We've identified new sources of funding for Meet AC to ensure the organization's continued viability. We approved the expansion of the successful Class II officer program from 30 to 45 officers, resulting in a greater police presence and furthering our clean and safe initiatives. We created and filled a new digital communications coordinator position to reactivate our CRDA and destination marketing social media accounts and re-engage a substantial following created by the former ACA. We reached new collective bargaining agreements with both the CWA and Teamsters Union representing our city workers. We authorized agreements with DCO Energy for new infrastructure for thermal energy into Boardwalk Hall and the acquisition of the convention center plant, both of which will reduce our operating costs substantially. We completed the original grant to the Department of Public Safety with the state-of-the-art technology system, where we spent $3.5 million for the communication system that provides opportunities for them with the cameras that we have both on the boardwalks and street to see what's happening. All of this happens because we have a dedicated and a very hard-working staff led by our executive director, Chris Howard. And I think I personally, on behalf of the board, want to congratulate them for a year in which we did a lot of things that had been wanted to be done over a period of years, but we got them done this year, and I think it's important. I also want to thank the mayor, and I know that he has a few things he would like to say, and I think it would be appropriate, Mayor, for you to say them now.
Thank you, Bob. So, I don't think there's any doubt that this agency is attacked more than any other agency in the state of New Jersey on a regular basis. And I don't think there's any city in New Jersey where politicians here in Camden and Trenton take credit for things they never did anything with. And with that, I just reflected over the last couple of weeks in the 4 years that I've been mayor on projects that the CRDA funded completely or partially that absolutely wouldn't have occurred. And I was surprised to come up with 23, and I'd just like to go through them very briefly.
Absolutely.
The relocation of John Brooks. There's 900 heroin addicts that had to get methadone care on Pacific Avenue that are now in Pleasantville. Meeting AC funding, I don't know if everyone understands that, but both the Convention Center and Boardwalk Hall would be in bankruptcy without that funding. We funded the IT upgrades for the Atlantic City Police Department. Without, we wouldn't have had the 20% decrease in crime. All of the projects, about 25 a year. The demolition of homes that are no longer usable is all funded by CRDA. The paving of Pacific Avenue and the replacement of all the sidewalk corners to meet ADA requirements. The LED lighting on the entire boardwalk, and then testing out Florida and Georgia Avenue to see if it made sense for the rest of the city, which it did. Every beach entrance, the entrance to the beach, the name of the beach, the erotic chairs, the Museum of Modern Art benches, the planters, the trash and recycling containers, all came from CRDA. The 100 homes for Presida on Adriatic Avenue, funded by CRDA. 100 homes on Connecticut Avenue. All of these are workforce housing, funded by funded by CRDA. The Hope 6 housing, 100 of them that gave people living in public housing the ability to have a beautiful home, funded by CRDA. The 250 units that are now being built in front of us, the beach at South Inlet, funding through the grant, the loan that they wouldn't have gotten otherwise. Bass Pro, CRDA. Waterfront Conference Center at Harris, CRDA. Stockton's Atlantic City campus. The South Jersey Gas corporate office. The observation wheel at Steel Pier. The ongoing boardwalk replacement. Every piece of board and every piece of screw is funded by CRDA. The initial funding of the mayor's job placement program, which, by the way, after 3 years as of last week, 780 people who walked into City Hall are now working in a job through that program. The funding, as he said, of 45 Class 2 officers and 5 supervisors. That's 50 police officers that he added on the streets of Atlantic City, allowing more experienced officers to work in the residential neighborhood. Landscaping of the City Hall entrance, that was all broken concrete before that. The hottest activity in Atlantic City, which is the beach concerts, which wouldn't have occurred without your subsidy. And then the several 100,000 people that come to the air show, the chamber runs it, but they wouldn't have done it without your $50,000 as a major sponsor. And then finally, I don't think any mayor has or will call the SID division as often as I did, probably 2 or 3 times a week. And if Rick didn't jump on it immediately within a couple of hours, he had already taken care of it before I had reached him. So I just wanted to point out that, you know, a lot of times we attack CRDA, but those projects here that everyone is so proud of in Atlantic City, all of them are here because of funding from CRDA. And so I thank you, as I am soon to become Mayor Emeritus in about 14 days or so. I thank you for the tenure that I had here and for all the support from CRDA. Thank you.
You know, sometimes when you hear a list that you hadn't really focused on, it can get a little overwhelming. And I think when we look back for the last 4 years, when you look at these accomplishments here, I think it's a credit to everybody who worked here and does work here for the CRDA, and a credit to the members of this board who had the courage many times to vote their convictions on the things that we needed to do. You know, we're not all perfect, and not everything works out exactly like you'd like it to, and that's not to say there aren't existing problems that need to be dealt with. But when you listen to the list of the accomplishments here, I think everybody here can be proud of what's been accomplished, and certainly starting with our executive director and all of the people who have participated in making these things happen. I, on behalf of the board, thank all of you, and I thank the public for their interest. I thank Bill Cheatham for coming to every meeting we ever have and to explain to us his passion for Atlantic City and what it means for these things to happen. It doesn't mean we don't have a lot more to do, but there is a lot to do. And we've had our obstacles. When the pilot program went in and we lost the $24 million a year from the IATs, we found ways to do these things and make it up, and to continue on to do the things that will help improve Atlantic City. So I think certainly at this time of year, it's a time for reflection. It's a time to look at what's been accomplished, and I say it again, we're fortunate to have people who care. We're fortunate to have members on the board who care, and certainly a staff who's willing to work long hours to get done the things that we do. So with that, I turn to you, Chris, and you can add whatever you want to bring to the attention of the board in your report.
I wish I'd got to do this before that, Liz. So just a couple of
Prerogative
things.
of the chairman.
A couple things, Mr. Chairman. First, just wanted to remind everybody, the Deck the Hall Christmas tree display is up now at Boardwalk Hall. If you haven't been over there, there's decorated Christmas trees all over the lobby. It's pretty impressive sight. One of them, I think, actually has running water, which is incredible. And also, on that note, wanted to mention that Spectra, our facility manager, venue management company there, raised a record this year, $22,000 for CASA, the Court Appointed Special Advocates. And for those of you unfamiliar, that is an organization that advocates for neglected and abused children and tries to help provide those children with safe and healthy permanent homes. Really incredible cause and incredible effort, frankly, by Spectra to raise that much money. Also, I usually do my event update. We're almost through December, but we have a very busy January at both facilities. Boardwalk Hall, we have All Stars of Hip Hop coming January 14th. Disney on Ice will be here January 18th to 21st. And Indoor Auto Racing Championship is here the last weekend, January, it's the 26th to 27th. Convention Center is also going to be busy. We have Spirit Cheer coming January 12th to 14th, looking at 22,000 for that one. Starbound Gymnastics, another 4,000 people that weekend. And then the Pool and Spa Show is coming back January 23rd to 25th. We're estimating 11,000 attendees for that. So big month coming up next month. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
That's good, and as I indicated in my remarks, I expect some announcements in the next couple of weeks that will also provide destination events for people to come into Atlantic City. So now we get to the proposed action items on the agenda today. The first item on the agenda is the 2018 Convention Center Division Capital Improvement Budget. Lisa, would you please read the resolution?
Resolution of the Casino Reinvestment Development Authority approving the Convention Center Division 2018 capital improvement budget.
Do I need any recusals on this? Chris, do you want to describe the action?
Sorry, let me skip one page. I just have to go through a page, I'm sorry. So our 2018 Convention Center Division Facilities budget, that includes Atlantic City Convention Center, the rail terminal at the Convention Center, and historic Boardwalk Hall, East Hall and West Hall. Proposed budget for 2018 is $64,486,573. Just as a reminder, that entire capital budget is funded through our luxury tax bond proceeds, and those funds are restricted for capital maintenance and improvement projects at the facilities. We cannot spend that money on anything else. There's no shortage of projects in there. So,
I do want to add that the fact that we approved the budget doesn't mean we've approved any projects.
absolutely.
The projects that will be undertaken under this budget will come before the board for approval. Board discussion. Public comment. Hearing no further board discussion, a motion?
Motion.
Moved by Mr. Gann, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Shaughnessy. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so ordered. When you think about it, that's a big number. I mean, we're talking about, and you know what, if we don't get it spent a certain time, then we have problems too, so it's good that we're moving. The second item on the agenda is the Tourism Market Expansion Project. It's approval of an amendment to the project supplemental fund reservation in an amount of $25,000 and authorization to enter into a public-private partnership agreement with the Jewish Community Center for sponsorship of the 2018 Atlantic City Race Series. Lisa, would you please read the resolution?
Resolution of the Casino Reinvestment Development Authority establishing a supplemental fund reservation in an amount not to exceed $25,000 from the Tourism District and Community Development Fund, and amending the Tourism Market Expansion Project to support the 2018 Atlantic City Race Series.
Nobody needs to recuse themselves from this, do they? The Jewish Community Center is requesting $25,000 to support the Atlantic City Race Series. These are the races that are held over 3-day weekends, April 13th to the 15th, and October 19th to the 21st, which are the edges of the shoulder season. The marathon is a Boston Marathon qualifier, which is very popular due to the flat terrain we have here. The race attracts 3,000 runners, plus their supporters each year. And these funds will be used to promote the race series and, most importantly, the city to a wider audience. It's been a very positive event for the city. The opportunity to get that positive image and messaging out to more potential visitors. Representatives from the race series are here. If anybody has any questions that they want to ask them, in the order of action here, is there any board discussion?
Chris, last board meeting, we checked if there was a conflict on the October.
There's not.
Any other board discussion? Public comment? Seeing none, a motion to...
Motion to accept.
Motion to accept, yes, or adopt. Moved, is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, seeing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so ordered. The next item on the agenda is CRDA-owned real property. This is a resolution that will approve the CRDA to go out to auction surplus property outside of the tourism district. Lisa, would you please read the resolution?
Resolution of the Casino Reinvestment Development Authority designating certain property as surplus and no longer needed for the purposes of the authority.
Any recusals? Chris, would you please give us a description of the action requested?
Certainly. We are seeking approval to designate certain authority-owned property outside the tourism district as surplus. The properties that are listed in the attachment, Exhibit A, are no longer needed by the authority for our operations or development opportunities. We would like to designate them accordingly and sell the properties through a public auction, as you indicated. Overall, the land that we would like to designate as surplus totals about 6 acres. Much of that is developable, but we also include on the list several non-buildable, non-developable sites outside of the tourism district. This action will allow us to evaluate our options with respect to those properties as well. Basically, the idea here is we're hoping this can encourage development of the parcels and also get the properties back on the city's tax rate.
And the only thing, in case the question comes up, there's one lot reserved out of the tourism district that we've had prior discussions with the Atlantic City Housing Department, and we're holding that out in the hopes that we can reach an agreement for what there, and the mayor knows exactly. He's been one of his projects that he's been proud to espouse, and I thank you for that, Mayor. Board discussion.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just clarify one thing,
Sure.
just for the sake of the record. The action today would actually designate the properties as surplus and authorize the disposition. The properties that are developable would go through auction. The non-developable could go through auction, but they could also be disposed of through other means. So technicality, but just to be clear for the record.
Yeah, you're talking about where there
If
might
they're
be a
like-
little strip of
exactly,
land
a small
adjacent
sliver
to
of-
somebody's house, so we
Exactly.
can make an agreement.
In that case, the law permits you to sell to adjoining property owners. So it wouldn't necessarily go through auction.
All right, board discussion.
I'd just like to comment for the general public. I think after they went through the master plan development, it was very clear that there was a strong misunderstanding by many in the community that the CRDA was banking land and sitting on it without any intent of having it ever developed. And that after having extensive discussion with the staff under Chris's leadership, and the board is convinced that through this action, any land that is outside the tourism district today will be offered for sale to the general public or negotiated for the smaller slivers. And that issue of misunderstanding is behind us. We've taken a number of actions with the city under the mayor's leadership. We've actually had land swaps in the past, where the CRDA has had land outside the tourism district. It is swapped for land that was not used anymore by the city inside the tourism district. The city is engaged in numerous sales of its surplus land. So I think has to be a very clear understanding and message delivered to the general population that neither the city or us as a CRDA state agency is sitting on land just to sit on it and leave it undeveloped. So look forward to some wonderful opportunities here. Hopefully have some land sold back for private use, development, whether it be for personal use or for commercial use, and it will benefit everybody, those who use it and build on it, and those who will soon be paying taxes on it to you in the city.
Unfortunately, not to me, but my successor. People this age.
We always consider you as the city.
Public comment. Mr. Cheatham.
It sounds nice, which you ladies and gentlemen are getting ready to do. But I'm hoping that now I don't still see those same vacant lots, the same vacant properties the next 5-10 years from now. Hope there's something on them or something being done. I mean, I hope that whoever buys it don't just sit on it. Got enough land being sit on with nothing being done. We need every development we can have in Atlantic City to make our town great again, period. We don't need people looking at land and just saying what they own. I want to see something on that land. Let's not fool us. We've been fooled enough in Atlantic City. Now that list, breaking the rules, comment on this list from the mayor, the list from the CRDA. I'd like to see one of that list. Now, what do I have to do to get that list?
We'll give you copies when it's over, because I want the mayor's copy. I don't give it out till we get a copy. We'll give it to you right after the meeting. You got another one?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll give you a copy.
Now, if I can get your copy this fast, it'd be nice.
You will. You will. I have notes on mine. I'll get you a clear copy afterwards.
Ladies and gentlemen, do all the time. If it wasn't for you guys, I don't know what we would have done in our city, period. Now, I get tired of fussing with everybody, but I fuss with you guys as well. But we need development in our city, we need more businesses, and we need more tax rating. Please, whoever buys it, we need tax rating. Thank you.
Any other member of the public wish to speak on this issue? Seeing none, motion to adopt the resolution.
I'll move, Mr. Chair.
Second. Mr. Shaughnessy. Second. Somebody second?
Second.
Seconded, Mr. Gant. Seeing no further comments, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so ordered. The next item on the agenda is environmental consulting services. It's authorization to extend the current contracts with Brinkerhoff Environmental Services and Remington and Vernick Engineers for environmental consulting services on an as-needed basis in an aggregate amount not to exceed $150,000 for an additional 1 month period. Lisa, would you please read the resolution?
Resolution of the Casino Reinvestment Development Authority extending the professional services agreements with Brinkerhoff Environmental Services Incorporated and Remington Vernick and Wahlberg Engineers Incorporated to provide environmental consulting services on an as-needed basis for a 6-month period ending July 1st, 2018, with a total spending authorization not to exceed $150,000.
Any recusals? Chris, you want to describe the action?
Certainly. At the December meeting last year, December 20th, 2016, the board awarded an as-needed contract to Brinkerhoff and Remington and Vernick for environmental consulting services. That contract expires at the end of this month, December 31st, 2017. It allows for an extension of up to 1 additional year. We're proposing a 6-month extension rather than the full year in order to align this contract with three other specifically, environmental related contracts that we have, in order to evaluate whether we might have some administrative efficiencies by combining some of those contracts down the road. The contracts for aggregate spending for the 6 months will be capped at $150,000, which we've adjusted accordingly based on the reduction in the term.
Chris, do you have any idea how much we spent last year on this?
I don't have it with me tonight.
Just under $25,000.
So, as you can say, it's as needed. We've only spent it when we need it. And we're not going to spend it if we don't need it. Board discussion. Rich.
Is that a pattern, 25,000, going back, I mean, how much does it vary?
I think pretty considerably, right? I mean,
Does,
sorry.
Commissioner,
Historically,
historically, the numbers have been higher.
Yes.
As far as needing these services, every time the authority acquired a piece of property, these services would be engaged. So with less acquisition activity, there's less intensity for the service.
I understand that.
Historically higher.
The 150, though, historically is a good benchmark,
It
is
is.
what I'm getting.
Based
Based on it being 25,000 last year,
on an annual run,
150 remains a good benchmark.
yes, I believe so.
And that'll be part of the evaluation in 6 months when
You
we.
brought it down from 395,000.
Right.
Right.
6 months.
Other comments from board members?
395 for the year.
Public comment. Seeing none, motion to adopt.
Motion.
Moved by Mr. Gant.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Kyle. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so ordered. Next on the agenda, we have the Atlantic City Tourism District Ambassador Program. Authorization to award a contract to ABM Industry Groups LLC for ambassador services in the tourism district through December 31st, 2018. Lisa, would you please read the resolution?
Resolution of the Casino Reinvestment Development Authority awarding a management contract to ABM Janitorial Services Mid-Atlantic Incorporated for ambassador services through December 31st, 2018, with a total contract value not to exceed 8.5% of actual labor costs incurred for such services.
Any refusals? description of the action requested, Chris?
Certainly. Our ambassador services are provided in support of our ongoing clean and safe initiatives. The ambassadors provide customer service and light security control services within the tourism district, mostly on the boardwalk. We sought bids from vendors to manage our ambassador program with our current contract coming to an end. The bid was for a management contract, and the vendors bid the amount of their management fee as a percentage of actual labor costs. Budget amount for labor is not to exceed for this year, for 2018, is $1,073,354. The contractor will be paid a management fee of 8.5% of the actual labor costs. That, based on the number I just read, is about $91,000, $91,235 to be exact. The contract includes 3 one-year extension options. So we are recommending an award to ADM Industry Groups LLC.
We did have bids, we advertised it with the 3 official newspapers, and we did have 2 bids from the ABM, which won it Vision 2000 in Atlantic City. The bid from 2000 was deemed non-responsive. Board discussion.
The management fee is part of the million or on top of?
That comes out of the $1 million.
And the 3-year extension options, they were presented with, I'm assuming, an increase, or they're holding the cost?
It'll be at the same terms.
Is it a unit or is it a
It's our option.
It's our option.
Our option,
Each year?
yes. Other comments, questions from board members? Public comment? Yes.
Now, these ambassadors, I heard of the tourism district mentioned. Now, is this concentrating their efforts on the boardwalk? Because at one time they used to be on Pacific Avenue. That's no longer
Well,
in effect?
the Class 2 officers do take over a lot of those responsibilities on Pacific Avenue.
Well, whoever is taking on that responsibility, whoever it is, doesn't matter to me. All I am concerned with, why can't we enforce our loitering laws in our city? Now, I've been in Atlantic City a long time, and I've never used to see people sitting all on the church steps, relaxing themselves, like it's home. Now, we only got one church left on Pacific Avenue now. We demolished all the churches that used to be on Pacific Avenue. This one church, I notice it every day. Every day. Not once in a while, every day when I go get the paper. Now, someone can enforce that loitering law. Please, Ambassador.
Do we have
Make
the
a trip
ability
on
to
the-
enforce
on
any
Pacific
laws
Avenue.
in loitering? As here? We don't have that ability? That's a city function? It's a city function, Mr. Cheatham?
City function, fine. But I don't see any city functioning going on Pacific Avenue.
This is the CRDA, not the city.
I understand that, I understand that. Now, you know, we all say the same thing when it comes to coming in and asking about what we can do about things. We pass it on to this guy, the other guy passes it on to them, and consequently, nothing gets done.
Mr. Chairman, I'll be happy to answer you. Loitering laws are illegal. They violate the Constitution of the United States. They have been shot down by the Supreme Court of the United States on behalf of the ACLU. You can't block a person's passage, and you can't create a havoc in a pedestrian right-of-way. But there is no law that says that you can't sit or stand anywhere you want, as long as you're not blocking traffic. And they can sit on St. Nicholas and Tolentines Church.
They
The
can't
problem, as we know, is the rooming house behind it, where there's outright drug sales going on that we're trying to do something about. That's the problem on Tennessee and
Well,
Pacific.
whoever creates these laws in Washington, wherever they are, they're doing wrong. Our country is going to hell in a handbasket, all because you're just letting people do whatever they want to do because of their rights. And the rights of other people is being taken away, just like that. period. Now, it's wrong, and I don't care about if I tell the President of the United States the same damn thing. It doesn't make sense to me.
I understand.
Yes, sir, you,
I'm Al Telefaro with Vision 2000, 110 Iris Folk Plaza, Atlantic City. Is it possible to get a debriefing on why we were deemed incomplete?
Probably not in a public session.
I mean, right.
We have the reasons, absolutely.
Yes, okay. So we were
you
considerably
stayed
less,
after the meeting, I'll be happy to tell you.
yeah, we were considerably less than ABM. If we were just wondering what happened. Thank you.
Yeah,
Sure.
but
Thanks.
There were, yeah.
Other comments from the public? Hearing none, motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt?
Moved by Mr. Hill, seconded by Mr. Gant. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so ordered. The last item on the regular action agenda is the Tourism District Land Use Regulations and Enforcement. Approval of the proposed schedule of fines and penalties for violation of authority land use regulations as required by Public Law 2011. Reading of the resolution, Lisa.
Resolution of the Casino Reinvestment Development Authority approving the adoption of a schedule of land use fines and penalties pursuant to PL 2011 C18.
Any recusals? Seeing none. Chris, you want to describe the action?
Sure, this is a quick one, just a perfunctory action, really. The board approved the adoption of our new land use regulations in November. Those regulations will be published in the New Jersey Register by January 2nd, or on January 2nd, 2018. They will take effect that date. So we're recommending this action in anticipation of publication to ensure that we are able to actually enforce the new regulations once they become. So all consistent with our enabling legislation.
Board discussion. Public comment. Motion.
Move.
That one came from over here, where? Howard moved it, second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Colson. Seeing no further comment, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so ordered. There are two things, before we go to the public comment period. The dates for the January meetings will not be the same as they are now, because one meeting date would be the inauguration of the new governor, and that sets back everything. So we will publish these dates in the paper. And what's that? Yeah, there's only one public meeting. And the second thing is, in offering comments of praise to all of our people, I forgot one person, and that's our lawyer from the governor's office, Mary Maples, who really has helped us get many of the things that we need to get done through the governor's office and through the bureaucracy in Trenton. And for that, Mary, you deserve kudos. Okay, now we come, public comment. Anybody from the public wish to address the board? Mr. Cheatham.
First, I want to wish to you, ladies and gentlemen, a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. May everybody have peace and prosperity. Now, I've been a bug all year long. I knew that. But I enjoy it.
Well, we enjoy you.
And I just want to, I'm still asking and wondering, I want this organization to be in Atlantic City for a long time. I don't want it to move. I don't care what goes on or what in Trenton. CRDA needs to stay here in Atlantic City. Because that's where it has done the most good to our state. So please stay here.
I don't think it
go
can
nowhere.
go anywhere under the statute. It's a unique organization, the only one in the country like it. And we're not going
I don't
anywhere.
know, our governor, who knows what he's gonna try to do. But let's hope it doesn't happen.
You got it. Anybody else from the public wish to address the board? Yes, ma'am.
Jeannie Bittner with the JCC. I just wanted to offer our gratitude to you as a board for continued support of our events. And we are going into the 60th year this year. So we're very excited and really look forward to growth, and with your continued support, we think that that can happen. So we thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all you do. Other comments? Yes, sir.
3 comments. Number 1, on the mayor's line about this being the most maligned agency. It could be a toss-up up north with the Bridge Commission. I think they got statewide press. Number 2, about the CRDA going anywhere. I see the CRDA in a process of transition, trying to figure out where it is. If it gets to where it's going, I think it's a good thing. There are many residents in Atlantic City that would not agree with Mr. Cheatham's statement that you shouldn't go anywhere, and I think we're all aware of that, but I think it should be voiced. Keep moving forward. Third thing, something that I thought of as I sat here. Any one of you who wants to come and see Atlantic City through my eyes is welcome to jump in the back seat of my car, and I'll take you on a tour and show you things that you may not be aware of. Thank you. Happy New Year.
Other comments from citizens?
Hi, Valerie McMarse, Galloway Township, New Jersey. Second generation casino worker for many years. I addressed the board before. Just really want to be the voice of the 8,000 jobs that were lost and the devastation of Wall Street. These billionaires that come in and have junked up our town, affected 8,000 families. I don't really think, other than Mr. Guardian or Mr. Cheatham or the gentleman on the end, any of you folks really live in Atlantic City or Atlantic County and have seen the devastation. You guys are supposed to be the guardians of the promise. The promise was to bring middle-class jobs to this city and to have the county of Atlantic County flourish. And I just hope and pray that down the road you don't award bad behavior. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
My name is Al Wallinger. I'm from Egg Harbor Township, New Jersey. I'm going to kind of second some of the stuff she said. Maybe not as nicely, but I'm not afraid to say who the person's name is. I worked at the Taj Mahal for 26 years. You guess who it was. The gentleman here helped us a lot when I was going on. Unfortunately, we all lost our jobs. And now for this CRDA to award him anything, I mean, the 8,000, maybe more than that, in jobs. For you guys to sit here and give him a dime. I mean, I met with him for 4 hours. I wish I had the 4 hours back. It was a waste of my life and time. It was nonsense. And for you guys to give him anything, you take the 5.6 million, why don't you divide it amongst the 8,000 people who lost their jobs around here? I mean, the Egg Harbor Township and the Township of Atlantic County, #1 in the United States for foreclosures. And this guy did not help the city in any way, state, nothing, does nothing for Atlantic City. And his name is Carl Icahn, so I'm not afraid to say it, I don't care if he hears about it, they write it in the paper, I could care less. I'm just telling you, think twice about giving him anything. Thank you. Oh, Happy New Year.
I appreciate your comments. There are a couple of things I think you need to understand. These really weren't Icon's money. These were IATs that came out of the Taj Mahal and the Plaza. And by statute, they cannot go to any project that they don't approve. We do not have the capacity under the law to take this money and do anything else with it. So either you demolish the tower or let it sit there. So what we have to judge is what's in the best interest of Atlantic City, and it has nothing to do with the individuals involved. I just want to make clear that I don't think anybody here, and I can only speak for myself, is happy with what happened there. But that doesn't mean that we don't have a fiduciary responsibility under the law to do what we have to do. And there are constraints on what we can do. So I want to make it clear, we, and many of us, have individual feelings about the situation. Understanding the law and what can be done with the IATs is important in what we do. So the choice then becomes, are you going to just let the tower sit there? These IATs were earned by the Taj and by the Plaza, not by Tropicana. And they would be, if this were approved, to be used to demolish the tower. So I just think it's important that people understand what the situation is in reality with what we can and can't do. Paul, have I correctly, legally stated what can be?
Do I legally have the right to vote no?
You can vote any way you want.
Thank you.
Everybody can vote the way they want.
You got my no vote.
When is the submission for his plans for the property usage after the demolition?
The
When is
process,
there a deadline?
it's in process now.
Will that be addressed at a further CRDA meeting or?
Well, it has to be addressed in a public meeting.
He's applied to demolish the property and to build a surface parking lot with the city, for permitted use, but for land use from CRDA.
It's not applied here yet.
No, it's not applied here yet. Sorry, it's applied with the city.
How does that benefit the community and create jobs?
Well, if you
That's
talk
for
to...
argument down the road.
Well, in the sense that if you demolish it and you have some development there, that may create jobs. If you let it stand there idle, it doesn't do anybody any good. The two projects that we're really working on between the Hard Rock and the Rebel will help to create many jobs. So this is the dilemma public officials face within the law and what's best in their judgment. It's a business judgment for the board as to what's best for the community in terms of the ultimate end, which, look, nobody wants to see anybody lose their job. Nobody. My understanding is there are still several vacancies in the casinos. Is that a fair statement?
Accurate. Oh, yes, absolutely.
There are
There's
many...
thousands of jobs available.
How many?
Thousands. They're not all full-time.
They're not middle-class jobs either.
They're not middle-class jobs, though. They're not
Sorry.
full-time, sorry.
Okay. There are full-time jobs that are attractive, not all thousands. I'll back that up. But there are lots of vacant positions. And we're looking at a resurgence here in the future with Hard Rock coming on, that they've already said 3,000 jobs will be available. So I'm just saying that we look to the future. The past is behind us. That's terrible what happened, those loss of jobs and the devastation to those families. But there is optimism in the near future, and people need to start taking advantage of that quickly, because those jobs will be very attractive for what most would agree is probably one of the top 3 or 4 casino operations in the United States.
Can I interject one more thing? You guys are creating these casino cities where people come to the city and they don't leave the casino because it's too unsafe. I mean, in the future, we should really have more community projects, more things where the image of Atlantic City is positive to leave the property. Like for example, Tropicana has created a city within a city. You go there, you don't have to leave. That's not good. I mean, the city itself needs to be cleaned up, like Mr. Cheatham said. You know, you can't see the loitering, you can't see the drug abuse, the prostitution, the homelessness. That's where CRDA should come in and help out. And I will
just make one comment as a casino operator for resorts. And believe me, I know how devastating it's been. I've worked at resorts for 5 years now. The ownership went into resorts, Morris Valley, and at a time when he absolutely could have closed the place because it was losing $20+ million, invested $110 million, and wrote the checks to keep the employees going. All the while, you know, life is very difficult, and everybody knows it. You know, you have Detroit and the automakers, they pull out, everything shuts down. That town is ravaged forever for decades upon decades upon decades. I understand what you're saying. I view things a lot differently, with all due respect. I think that we're at a point where a renaissance is near. Someone mentioned Hard Rock coming to town. We're going to employ 35 to 5,000 employees, middle-class job. A lot of them are middle-class jobs. We can already feel the pinch at resorts because they're hiring some resorts employees and things like that. So there's going to be a renaissance when it comes to employment. If 10 opens, certainly we'll employ another 35 to 4,000, 5,000. And you know, a lot of things are out of control because business dictates. I will give you my personal opinion. I think it would be terrible if the plaza stays up like that, as a horrible looking building that is due to come down. And I think that without that thing coming down, how do you prosper? How do you create safe around that area? So as horrible as it's been, I think you got to give this. You know, it wasn't broken in a day. It's hard to get fixed in a day. I think you have to have some patience and have some hopefully, optimism, because that's really what we need. We're really trying to work together collectively to prosper Atlantic City and the region. So,
Kevin, do you want to comment on this?
Yeah, I know there are, for Caesars Entertainment, last I checked, there's about 400 jobs, and I would say half of them are middle management. So there absolutely is opportunity today. So I'd encourage you or anyone you know to apply. They're certainly available. With regard to the perceived eyesore, and I think most of us would agree to that, that is beneficial. I think the structure and how that's done is what we can debate and probably all day long, and it would be unproductive to continue that today. But to the point that Mark made, there really is a collective effort from all constituents to try to make Atlantic City better. And to your point earlier about safety, I mean, that is something that Mark and I talk ad nauseum, because we are the unfortunate beneficiaries, if you will, of a lot of that activity that falls onto our properties. And when you say casino cities, this business in 2006 was $5.2 billion. It's now at $2.3 billion. Right? People aren't coming here the way they used to, and it's primarily driven by the proliferation of gaming, but also the continued perception of the safety environment. So we are all collectively trying to figure out how to make that work. And there's lots of things that have to happen. It's not just on the perception side. There has to be real action. And earlier in the committee, we did mention, or in the meeting, we did mention, the John Brooks House outpatient is now off the island. Right? So if we can continue to try to figure out how to get these rehabilitative services out of the tourism district, that'll start believed to be the catalyst to positive change in perception of clean and safe environment. We are all aligned on that. Everyone in this building.
There are limits to what our powers are to do in terms of clean and safe. That really is the function of the We've done our part by putting up the money for the 45 Class 2 officers and having an ambassador program. The other thing is, I think, we've attempted to focus, and if you listen carefully, things like Stockton College, South Jersey Industries, the Borai Housing. There are a whole series of projects that we've participated in funding that attempt to reach the destination as opposed to being in the casinos. And it's all part of creating a vibrant society in the city. Look, some of it has to be done by the local agencies too. The mayor certainly tried. We are limited in our powers to do that. And so we have to do what we can do under the statute and attempt to do what we think is best. And I think their testimony is pretty clear. And we have to divorce ourselves from personal feelings in terms of our responsibility to the oath we take for the office. However we may feel about Mr. Icahn, cannot enter into what's best for the city of Atlantic City. We can debate what's best for Atlantic City, but we still have to do what is the best business judgment that we can make. So I want to make it very clear that it's not that whatever happens here is against what you're saying, because we certainly have sympathy to those issues. We certainly have 4 representatives of labor who sit on this board. They're very sensitive to these issues. They've been very clear in speaking to this board about their sensitivity to these issues. But in the end, we've got to come to a resolution about what's best. And frankly, in my opinion, the last thing we can do is leave the tower standing there for years, because that doesn't help anybody. And since these IATs really did not come from the top, they just happened to pass through because the others went down. There's an issue there. So I'll sort of leave the discussion at that point. Anybody else in the public? Howard? Yes, sir.
I just want to let you know that we have a homeless day center in Atlantic City called Turning Point. We have about 150 to 200 homeless people that come through every day. We get them to come out of the boardwalk and out of the city. We kind of have them at one place, and then we close at 5 o'clock, but we're open every day by Sunday.
Right.
So any support that you can get to help us out with that, we greatly appreciate it. We're struggling to stay open.
Okay.
Let me just real quickly. I know that for the foreseeable future, casinos are going to continue to be the largest employers in the area. That's a given, and they're going to be a driving economic force in the area. But in terms of job creation, I want to point out something that often gets overlooked, that Somehow, in the last 40 years, a perception was created that almost all jobs have to be in Atlantic City and they have to be in the gaming industry. And that is not really the right way to go or the way it should be. There are opportunities that are emerging, and that are active projects that are underway offshore, especially around the airport district, that would create jobs in maintenance repair operations, and would create jobs in air cargo handling, and would develop a whole, what's called the aviation district around the airport. That's underway and that's moving. It's impeded a little bit by a lack of any incentive funding and even by restrictions which say all CRDA money stays in the city. But the reality is, I grew up in Atlantic City. My first job, real job, was outside of Atlantic City. There's nothing wrong with anyone living in Atlantic City having to commute to Pleasantville, Egg Harbor Township, and work and make a good salary in jobs that may be a little bit more higher status. So that is where I think we have to look beyond just focusing on the gaming and hospitality industry in this area.
Other comments? Hearing none, I will close the public session. We are, going to have an executive session to deal with a contract negotiation matter. I don't believe we'll come out with any action. It's more an update for the board members. So if we had any action coming out of it, I would certainly tell you, because I just don't want you to sit around if nothing's going to come out of that session. So I will accept a motion to close the public portion of the meeting.
Motion.
Move. Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I accept the motion to go into executive session. Move. Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you all very much for coming.